Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the headlines of this hour. Israeli army spokesman Efi Defrin has stated that the IDF has carried out approximately 3,400 strikes across Iran and disabled more than 150 Iranian defense systems. US President Donald Trump has addressed the United Kingdom and Prime Minister Keir Starmer directly on social media, saying that they don't need people to join after the war has already been won. US President Donald Trump has blamed Iran for the school bombing that claimed the lives of 175 people on the first day of active hostilities between Iran and the US. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has slammed the US-Israeli strikes on Iran, saying that the war in the Middle East should never have happened in the first place. US President Trump was there to witness the return of the bodies of 6 American soldiers killed in the Iran campaign. The soldiers were killed after a drone struck a US military base in Kuwait. Caitlin Kalinowski, head of robotics and consumer hardware at OpenAI, has announced her resignation, citing concerns about the company's agreement with the Department of Defense. According to the Egyptian presidency, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulides held a phone call urging efforts to contain regional military escalation, stressing the need for peaceful solutions while urging implementation of the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. According to joint statements, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney have agreed in Tokyo to launch a new economic security dialogue and cyber policy consultative body as they expand cooperation. The two leaders also pledged to expand joint military exercises and defense cooperation. Now for this hour, we start with Iran. Tehran's governor says that fuel distribution in Tehran has been temporarily halted after US and Israeli strikes damaged oil depots. Authorities are working to restore supply as the situation unfolds. Simultaneously, explosions were reported in Iran's central Yazd province, with blasts also hitting Tehran and Isfahan. Meanwhile, in Bahrain, an Iranian drone attack damaged a water desalination plant, according to the Interior Ministry. As Iran continues its air campaign across the region, the strikes have caused infrastructure damage and disruptions, heightening tensions in the Gulf. Now we welcome Mr. Sol Sadka. He's a political commentator, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for joining us. Are you staying safe in Israel?
Yes, safe in Israel. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
We have to run to the bunkers sometimes, but things are okay.
Okay, good to hear that. And now looking at this once again, we saw yesterday Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, apologize to Gulf countries, neighboring countries, that we're not going to attack unless there's an attack from that country, right? But now again, once again, we're seeing this attack from Iran to Bahrain. What's your take?
Well, it's not surprising. Within hours of Pezeshkian's making his statement, he was rebuffed by various people within the IRGC hierarchy who denied his plan and said that they absolutely were intending to continue attacking their Gulf neighbors. And so seeing that happen today is no surprise at all. The Iranians are taking a scorched earth policy. They realize, the smart ones anyway, realize that their regime is going down and they want to go down in flames. And they want to take whatever they can down with them. But thankfully, it's not really very much.
And Why do you think that Iran is so emboldened or confident about such move? Do you think they have the capacity to continue to make enemies in the region?
They certainly have the capacity to continue to make enemies, although how many more is unclear since they've made enemies of basically everyone, not to mention the poor citizens of Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen, where they have set up proxy armies that have destroyed their societies. But they seem hell-bent on making enemies of everybody, and they are achieving that. However, most likely it won't matter very much because their regime will be gone sooner or later. There's not really any way that it can come back just from the blows it's already taken in the past 8 days. There's no real way that it can rebuild from that, particularly when they're going to be under the overwatch of the US and Israel permanently now, seeing as they have no air defense. So they can't rebuild. Their regime at some point will face riots, as it has done many times in the past, but this time they won't have the ability to fend off those rioters because they will be under an effective US no-fly zone. And that will be the end of them. So they can make all the enemies they want. They are going to leave their mark on history as one of the most repressive and evil groups the world has ever seen. And it should be a message to others. Don't be evil.
And Mr. Sadka, so now this just in few hours we saw these reports coming in from according to local reports in Iran, that they're almost there to choose the next leader, and then Israel said that they'll be eyeing whoever it is. And what's the situation about the next leader? What do you think?
I'm sure Israel is dead set on doing what it promises to do. It did the same thing with Nasrallah. After Nasrallah was killed a year and a half ago, a new leader was appointed, his cousin, if I remember, and his cousin was killed within a few days, and then a third leader was appointed, and that guy was killed too before he could even really take office. And I've no doubt at all that Israel is serious about the fact that they intend to continue to eliminate every leader of this evil regime. And the point of doing that is not so much as to kill the people, but to kill any hope that the regime can continue to function in the long run. If every leader is under a death notice waiting for his expiry, it's very hard to make a regime function under those circumstances, and that seems to be Israel's plan. Also to make the Iranians continually confused and terrified and always at risk of betraying their brethren and allying with the United States with information. All of this is information warfare, but it will end up in actual warfare. If they do appoint a new leader, the probability is that leader won't live out the week, I would say.
Yes. And now that we are entering second week, Mr. Sadka, do you think that this is going to continue and we are not seeing any signs of de-escalation?
No, I don't think so. Because there's no reason for Trump to de-escalate, because as he can see, his operation is going very, very well, exceeding all expectations, and at a minimal cost to the United States. Only it has lost 6 servicemen and a small amount of equipment, a few radars and 3 planes, whereas the Iranian regime has been reduced primarily to rubble. And there's no reason why they would let whatever remains of the Iranian regime live to fight another day. For Trump, that wouldn't make any sense. He wants to come back with a picture of victory that he could present to the people in the elections in the United States in November. At the same time, the Iranian regime also aren't likely to compromise, and there really is nothing they have to offer. They don't really have anything to offer Trump anyway, so there's really no grounds for any serious negotiations here. The Iranian regime 9 days ago had the opportunity to make a deal and hand over their uranium in full, and they kept prevaricating and making minor demands and tweaks and demanding peaceful nuclear energy when they have more oil than anyone. Of course, it was clear to Trump and to everyone else what their plan was, as it has been for the past 20 years of these negotiations. So 20 years of negotiations, failed negotiations, inability to compromise, have led to their demise. And at this point, they don't have anything left to offer at the negotiating table.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for sharing that insight. Please do stay with us. Now, moving on, Qatar Airways has announced that limited repatriation flights will operate from Doha starting on March 7th. These flights will serve London, Paris, Madrid, Rome, and Frankfurt, prioritizing stranded families, elderly passengers, and those with urgent medical needs. Scheduled commercial operations remain suspended as Qatari airspace continues to be closed due to the regional conflict. Passengers have been directly contacted with assigned flights and are urged not to travel unless officially notified. The airline has confirmed that safety and passenger well-being remain the highest priority during the disruption. Additional relief flights are being organized where possible, and updates will be provided once confirmed. Global air travel continues to face major disruptions as regional airports in the Middle East, including Dubai, Doha, and Abu Dhabi, remain closed following the escalation of the Iran conflict. Now we welcome back Mr. Sol Sadka. He joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for staying with us. Now, building on earlier discussion and looking at this now, how is energy prices how is this conflict reflecting on energy prices and also the flights that are being cancelled? What do you think all the countries should be doing to protect their citizens or to evacuate them safe and sound as soon as possible?
Well, the flights are returning slowly to the Middle East until the Iranian drone threat is eliminated completely or nearly completely, which might happen in a week or two. My guess is that full operations in these Gulf states, which really are within drone range, an easy drone range of Iran, will not operate fully. The people of the Gulf countries are learning what the Israelis have learned over 15 years, which is how to act when there is an incoming rocket or drone, and that will improve. And hopefully this will be ended relatively soon. As regards to the oil prices have ticked up to around $90 a barrel from the 70 that they were at before this all kicked off. And it's entirely plausible that it will continue to rise. However, the oil market is now bifurcated around the world. Different countries pay different prices depending on how things work for them. The United States is very unlikely to be significantly affected by any rise in the oil prices coming out of the Gulf, only because Trump has a trick up his sleeve, that he has the strategic oil reserve that he has not so far opened up, but he could. And if prices started to rise beyond a level that he thought the American public were comfortable with, he could open up the strategic reserve of oil and get oil flowing again. The urgency, however, is to wind up hostilities along the Persian Gulf coast as fast as possible and to push the IRGC away from the coastline to ensure they're unable to fire drones and fast boats and threaten shipping. And I'm sure that is the absolute priority of the Americans at the moment. That's what they are focusing on, while the Israelis are more focused up in the north. The Americans have been focusing on the Persian Gulf coast and destroying the entire navy and finding any small boats that could be used to attack shipping and finding the nests of drones and eliminating them to prevent any kind of trouble. Also dealing with various mines that might be placed in the waters of the Gulf. And once that's all set up, then the Americans will have complete control of the Persian Gulf. That is probably their number one priority at this point, I would say.
Mr. Sadka, also, if we know that this Operation Epic Fury was in the process of making for a long time, then why didn't they have a strategy to protect all these ships and oil companies operating in the Strait of Hormuz, since they knew that this is going to be a hot point, this is going to be affected eventually?
Now, this is a really good question, and my assumption is that they do indeed have such a strategy, and it's currently being put into place. This was always going to be the most difficult nut to crack, because the Gulf is a shallow body of water surrounded on most of its coastline by Iran, full of nooks and crannies and coves and bays. And it needs continual surveillance to ensure that someone cannot shoot out from the coastline and attack a ship, and these ships are vulnerable. So that's going to be the next stage, I'm quite sure, to completely close down any threat to shipping in the Straits of Hormuz.
Thank you.
Whether it succeeds or not is uncertain, but my guess would be yes. The Americans have proved themselves quite adept at this kind of thing in the past.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for sharing that. Please do stay with us as we come back to you. Now, moving on, White House has halted the release of a federal security bulletin warning of heightened threats to the United States amid the conflict in Iran. The bulletin, prepared by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Intelligence and Analysis, the FBI, and the National Counterterrorism Center, is meant for state and local law enforcement agencies. A Trump administration official told Reuters the White House requested a review to ensure the bulletin is accurate and properly written before distribution. According to the official, the draft did not provide sufficient insight and was not clearly written, leading to the decision to temporarily halt its release. The White House said it is coordinating closely with federal agencies to make sure all information is accurate and vetted, even if it requires additional time. Since the start of the conflict, the United States has conducted multiple charter flights to evacuate thousands of Americans from the Middle East amid the largest U.S. military operations in the region since 2003. Now we welcome back Mr. Sol Sadka. He's joining us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for staying with us. Why do you think, the release of Federal Security Bulletin has been delayed?
Sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Yeah, so the White House has halted the release of a Federal Security Bulletin. So why do you think this was delayed?
Well, we'll find out when it comes out. There are all sorts of reasons why the White House might do that, for reasons of operational security and the safety of troops and so on. There could be very many reasons. And in reality, there's much more that's happening regarding this war that we, the public, do not know than we do know. We are only seeing the tip of the iceberg of everything that's going on at the moment, and that's for a number of reasons. First of all, because as you mentioned, there's a lot of security on the American side about what is released, but also because the internet is cut off in Iran, and so the amount of information getting out of there is very, very limited. So between all this, there's a tremendous fog of war, a fog of war that's particularly heavy on the spectators, us, we who are not personally involved in the war, actively in Iran, but also, and this is actually the point, on the IRGC themselves. So the IRGC, before the war started, arranged for their armies, the rocket-firing armies, to break up into 31 different groups, or so they say, and then sent them off in all the directions, and they're now completely out of communication with each other. So this is the reason, whereas in previous rounds of fighting with Iran, Israel would provide a daily tally of how many missiles and drones came into the country and how many were shot down. That information is no longer available. Now, the reason the Israelis are doing that is because they know how many missiles have come in, but no one in Iran knows how many missiles they've shot because of their breakdown, their deliberate breakdown in information. So as a result, for that reason, they are not going to make it easy for the Iranians to know how many missiles they're firing. The answer is, by the way, very few, and almost none of them are getting through to Israeli towns and cities and causing damage. In fact, only 2 in the past 8 days of war. The Iranians have fired at least 500 of their 2,000 missiles at Israel, and they have caused 10 casualties. Only 2 of those missiles had lethal effects, 1 in Tel Aviv and 1 about an hour outside Tel Aviv in a city called Beit Shemesh, where 9 people were killed by 1 rocket. That has been the entire effect of the Iranian ballistic missile arsenal on Israel, which is why, as you can see with the Americans and the Israelis, they're being very cagey about the information they allow to get out, because they know the information they have could be useful to their enemy, who is currently completely blinded by the fog of war.
With that, I'd like to thank Mr. Sol Sadka for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Nepal. Balendra Balan Shah, the rapper turned politician, has unseated former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli in Nepal's elections, winning a landslide victory in his own Japa 5 constituency. The 35-year-old leader of the Rastriya Swatantra Party, known as RSP, has secured more than 68,000 votes against the four-time Prime Minister's roughly 18,000, according to the Election Commission. Early results show the RSP sweeping the polls and heading towards forming the next government, marking a major shift away from traditional parties. Sharma Oli conceded defeat and congratulated Balan, while supporters celebrated the upset as a sign of demand for change. Analysts say the result reflects widespread desire among young voters for new leadership and reforms in Nepal's political landscape. Now we welcome Mr. Sogat Gautam. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Nepal. Thank you very much, Mr. Gautam. Welcome to NewsX World.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, Japa 5 has been KP Sharma Oli's fortress for decades, for Balan to not just win, but to win by a margin of nearly 50,000 votes. What does this say about the collapse of the traditional vote bank system in Nepal?
I think you rightly said. I mean, Japa 5 is definitely considered as the stronghold of former Prime Minister Mr. KP Sharma Oli, and then he has been winning all the elections which he has contested, except for one which was in 2008 Constituent Assembly election, and then it has been his stronghold area. And for someone like Balin Saha, who I mean, we cannot only say it's a general win, but a landslide victory, as a newcomer politician to Nepal. So I think it definitely shows that the changing trend of politics in Nepal, where we can clearly say that the traditional vote bank system, where we call that this is the stronghold of this party, another party is stronghold of other party. So the party loyalty thing, vote bank system, and then historical affiliations, and then the organizational network, which KP Sharma Oli's party is considered very strong at, it's definitely weakening. So I think a lot of landscapes are changing, and then especially the young voters, and then a lot of people being on social media. The political narrative definitely has shifted from the way it used to be to a current scenario. So I think there are so many aspects associated to it, and definitely after the Gen Z protest, which was considered as the Gen Z protest, which took place in September 8 and 9, this particular constituency is taken as, or let's say considered as, the constituency where the whole nation was eyeing on, or let's say it was considered as one of the kind of referendum, safe to say that, where Balin Saha, considered as the hero emerging from the protest, and then the new face of the politics, while KP Oli representing the establishment front. So I think the whole Japa 5 election was about the establishment versus the new one, and I think that's how the whole narrative shifted and changed, which helped Balin Saha to get a big win from that particular constituency.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gautam, for highlighting that. And building on that, the top three leaders had established, albeit volatile, relationships with New Delhi and Beijing, with a 35-year-old outsider at the helm. Do you anticipate a period of diplomatic anxiety from Nepal's neighbors as they try to figure out balanced Nepal first doctrine?
I think definitely. I think Nepal's traditional leadership. You rightly mentioned about the three former leaders who actually, took a leadership and became Prime Minister of Nepal, and it was only three of them who was in charge of the prime ministerial seat for almost 20 years, and then they definitely had a very, they have developed this long-standing diplomatic channels, and then they had considered good relationship with both the neighbors. And then, as you mentioned about the new, unconventional figure, or let's say the one with this different political aura, Mr. Balin Saha, emerging as the as the leader now. I mean, 35-year-old man who is going to be a prime minister of Nepal. So, I mean, I would rather say, rather than anxiety, I think it would definitely be a phase of diplomatic recalibration, I would say, rather than anxiety. And also, I think the Nepal first thing which you mentioned, I mean, we haven't explicitly heard, Mr. Balinsa explaining about, Nepal first thing as his, thing. But I think it will definitely be, I hope that both the big neighbors and then, the trusted neighbors of our country will try to understand his style, I mean, governing style, how his policy priorities are going to be. And then also, I think, as we know that the party, because it's not going to be a coalition one, because they have, it has been indicated that they are going to get outright majority in the government. So we were definitely looking forward, how Balinsaha will shape his governing style, and then how his policy priorities would be. But yeah, I think, I mean, as we, take this change, or let's say take this new path ahead, we were definitely looking forward to see more transparent and then interest-based foreign policy for Nepal, because that's one area where Nepal has always been, kind of criticized, or let's say where we were able, a lot of conspiracy theories, or let's say where it used to be floated. So I think we're looking forward to that. So I think it's definitely going to be very new for Nepal, as well as for the, neighbors, but quite hopeful. I think both the neighbors who have been always, been helpful to the new government, which have been formed for last several years. So yeah, I think we can sense, kind of scenario where there will be short adjustment period for the new government, or let's say new establishment of Nepal, and then expecting, diplomacy being very normalized based on like mutual engagement between all three countries.
And lastly, if you can briefly tell us this, as the projected Prime Minister Balin is moving from a local executive role to a national legislative one, how will he balance his anti-establishment persona with the constitutional need to build consensus among various factions in the House?
Yeah. I think thank you for this question also.
Thank you.
So as I already mentioned also, the benefit for his party is now, their party is almost sure to get the single party, majority. So the coalition stress is relatively, not there for Mr. Balinsa and his party. But again, I mean, as you said, we're in a system where this is Westminster system, where Prime Minister has to be, answerable to Parliament, and then there are things, very new for Balin and the whole team which he is going to lead, and then the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, which has emerged victorious in this election. So moving from, the persona of mayor, I mean, where he was elected independently and then was able to maintain that anti-establishment sentiment, to a government, where fundamentally he's going to be an executive head of the whole country. So I think that's definitely going to be a challenge for Mr. Balinsaha. I think as a mayor, he could, heavily rely on very executive style of decision making, and then, strong narrative could be on his side, because it was like that. But I think at national level, within the framework where we have this, a lower house, and then there's also an upper house where his party does not have the majority. I think the benefit, coalition building, negotiation, and consensus, he's less likely to going to, I mean, he does not have big stress on that. But yeah, I mean, to transfer his credibility, as an institutional leadership, is definitely gonna, be a challenging one. So yeah, I think my final words would be like, it's all about how he's going to engage with the established parties with who were old, and then, who had some continuity aspect of it. I mean, though they are very less in numbers in Parliament, I think he have to work with the parliamentary committees, and then maybe have to build alliances that will, that is not going to work based on his personality. So I think a lot of team building and then teamwork that has to be, taken place for Balin in near future. But yeah, I mean, if he manages to transition this, persona to institutional leadership, then he could actually redefine, the leadership in Nepal by like combining this accountability and institutional cooperation, which we've been lacking, or let's say, which we've been complaining for ages. So yeah, I mean, we can take that as opportunity, to what do you say? Not the tension between his anti-system image and then realities of the parliamentary politics. So yeah, we were hoping for at least being hopeful that it will transition well.
Yes, we will be eyeing that. Great learning from you. Thank you for that timely insight, Mr. Sogat Gautam. That's all we have.